Welcome, everybody. It's been a couple of days. It's Wednesday. We're going to put on our tinfoil hats. We're going to talk some shenanigans. We got a lot for you guys today. We're going to recap Juve's really awkward way of playing through the Coppa Italia. A snake in the Bianconeri grass, as X is unfortunately illustrating an individual. We'll talk about that. The one thing else I wanted to talk about is the new MLS rule changes that the referees will be doing for the MLS, and why doesn't Europe follow suit? And I got to be careful because apparently if I dog on England, it'll piss somebody off, even though I wasn't even in that conversation. But
we aren't allowed to talk about English football.
I'm not allowed to talk about English football because apparently every foreigner that impacts it means it's English football is good, not that they're importing all of their stuff. But I rest my case there. And we're going to talk about the main event, or the main course of this. We're going to talk about Locatelli. Just because there were some numbers that were thrown around Instagram and Twitter and whatnot.
Fake stats.
I don't want to say fake stats because the stats are accurate. It's just more so the context that the stats were delivered.
Oh, it's an agenda. It's pure 100%.
Agenda. Yeah, and that's one of those things where we've said supplement it with other facts and figures, other eye tests, other things, and the way that went out there just absolutely caught fire. And I just was like sitting there and I'm like, okay, hold on, because like I saw it. Threw me off a little bit. I even texted German Dave and I said, hold on.
Hey, we needed 2 minutes and
debunked it within 5 minutes. Absolutely 5 minutes. It's ironic, really. And the way that it was contextually displayed, I was just kind of like, this is a little bit facetious. And this isn't like, for example, and also to give you guys context as well, this isn't like we're gonna roast Loca and go after him and bury him. And it's like, no.
We will put everything in context in a careful manner. Like if you see stats somewhere, us, we always urge you to do your own research, to question everything, and don't be like a blind follower in this world of football or in this fandom and this toxic IG and X sphere. And so we just want to clear up a little bit the air, and for you guys to see also the other side of the medal as well, that of course wasn't presented.
Exactly. And I kind of wanted to, and as we're starting, we'll start with the MLS rule change just so you guys can see it. But the main thing I kind of wanted to throw out there, and it kind of irritates me a little.
Hold up, brother. Let me go just for a short intro. First, guys, the housekeeping, please like and subscribe, everybody. Hey, we need you guys
to do that.
Hey, come on. Let us get to the
do that.
Hey, come on. Let us get to the 2K. Help us. We love you all. And my second point, and then you can cook on the MLS rule changes. No matter how bad we play, remember, you could be Liverpool and cross it, inshallah, 35 times into the box and connect on only 8. On 8 of them, that's 23% of cross completion percentage. So don't ever complain you're about cross stitch again. That was my fun stat of the day.
Yeah,
all right, we can
crossing. I gotcha. So the one thing I kind of wanted to talk about is because a lot of, with the negativity that's going on with Juve's performances, and a lot of people are pissed off, and some folks are like, oh, what do you have the right to be angry and cranky and yada yada yada. And here's where I kind of draw my line in the sand for this, because I've been pissed off. There's reasons why I have not done watch-alongs, because you guys don't want to see me with how heated I've been the past couple of matches. I just want to, I don't want to say anything that I'd regret. As a fan that I am paying money to watch the product that Juventus is putting onto the pitch, I have every right to be angry, because at the end of the day, it's sports. Juventus is a football club. They're providing a service to us. They're providing entertainment. And as a fan that pays for that product, because I do, I pay for the streaming service to specifically watch them and endure the Muppets that they have as pundits because I love the club. I have every right to sit there and throw respectful pushbacks on how they're performing, why they're performing. I am not going to blindly sit there and start clapping and saying this is amazing. I've always made takes objectively and respectfully. I've not gone in and just said, okay, Allegri sucks and just end it there. I always try to make it sound he sucks because of one, two, and three. Chiesa's not
By the way,
performing well.
this
2 and 3.
disclaimer, we never even said it like that, that he sucks. We were
No,
always to say, the team sucks. He is up and down, but yeah,
yeah.
just as a
So
disclaimer.
and as a community here that a lot of the folks that we interact with here, we want you guys to project that as well. We don't like for us if we're scrolling through the internet and we see one of you guys go on there and say, "Oh, and start being negative and bashing," we'll call you out on Discord. Trust me, Canadian Dave does not care.
Oh,
But
or in the comments, the YouTube comments.
the idea is we'll talk about that guy because it's interesting because I was just reading you guys going with them, but um I just want us to be objective when we offer critique. And it's not saying like, for example, we've never once shut down the idea of critiquing something. We've had people call us Allegrianos. He knows who he is, but he's never been able to really discuss anything about it. But the idea for you guys, because there is a lot of negativity that's going around, we have been playing absolutely terrible. We
Yeah,
scrape by the skin of our teeth. But it's
yeah,
one of those things where let's not harpoon it, but let's have like for example, let's use some deductive reasoning. Let's look at things. Let's say, hey, this is bad because of X, Y, and Z. So let's keep it objective. And that's my little disclaimer for keeping it clean. So a couple of breaking news things that happened today. Vinny kind of spoiled it with Chavi there. So I'll touch on that and then I'll kind of shift into the MLS. So Xavi is staying until 2026 with Barcelona. Translation: Barcelona cannot afford anybody else to replace him. That is the only justification I see for that rule because Barcelona, so alleged rumors say that Barcelona were only allowed to invest about 2 million to about 2.5 million set if Xavi was to leave the club. So I think it made sense for them to tell
yep.
him, just stay, ride it out. We don't have
Yep.
anybody to replace you with.
No coach of world class caliber. There aren't world class caliber coaches out there right now, and B, no coach would subscribe to 2 million euros of salary.
No, absolutely not. So I think Barcelona kind of told them, hey, pucker down. We need you to stay a little bit longer and just ride with that. For me, it's, if you're a Real Madrid fan, which apparently we were alleged, which I think is funny. Not like I have the scarf right there. But looking at it from that perspective, I think Barcelona is still going to plateau. I don't think Barcelona is going to rise to any prominence. I just don't find Xavi an effective coach with the talent that he has present. So, if you're a Real Madrid fan, you're licking your chops because until at least, until 2026, I don't think Barcelona is going to show too much strive of improvement. That is what happens when you lock your roster to a Pirlo-esque coach and can't get anything because Xavi to me is another Pirlo. When it comes to management,
Yep.
the fact that he has fumbled the amount of stars that he has on a Barcelona roster shocks the hell out of me. Yes, like for
Yep.
example, some of those Barcelona players need to do better, of course. But like the
Yep.
fact that you weren't able to find a solution to play João Felix and Robert Lewandowski together to me baffles me. How that's not been, you know, it's not been possible whatsoever. I mean, their midfield is a pretty damn decent midfield, and their back line is atrocious. So like I said, I don't know, but I rest my case on Xavi. The next thing you shared as well, Eric Ten Bum.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
The brother will lose a quarter of his of his salary.
if should he retain his services next season, he will take a 25% pay decrease. next season because of objectives, and the fact that he was a toenail away from getting eliminated by Covington in the FA Cup to me still screams blasphemy. You know,
Oh, and
a lot of the
today till the 85th minute against Sheffield United, that is like only one result away from being relegated. Till the 85th minute, that game was tight, and then they finished it off with 4-2. But hey, every single point, hey, it's worse than us right now. Like every single point, like falls in their lap. They don't earn their points. It's worse than we are doing right now.
I know it is right. Like for example, you can be upset with Allegri, but at least you don't have Ten Hag as your
Yeah.
manager, because I remember so many people used to yell at Dave and myself about Ten Hag, and we never wanted the guy, never liked him, and there's a
And
reason
and
why.
hey, and don't forget how Man U bottled a lead in the like in the final like 7 minutes of extra time against Chelsea to lose that game as well.
Yeah, I
Two goals in the span of 2 minutes to lose the game against one of the worst Chelsea teams in history, like in
Chelsea's
their history.
Chelsea's not even a club anymore. Like
Oh
they're a
no,
passion project by Todd Bowley, or I believe he's the owner of the Dodgers. Whoever has Chelsea, like Chelsea has just become a
yeah, it's
passion
Bowley.
project.
It's Bowley.
Bowley, where he's just like screw it, like that.
Oh yeah,
And I'm gonna cook on the Premier League for a little bit, right? Because I'm getting really frustrated where I see statements where they say English football is the most incredible thing in the world, and like Yanks don't have the right to talk about the Premier League. David, did you know that 10 Premier League rosters are owned by Americans?
yep,
Did
knew
you
that.
also know that Manchester City, 18% of it is owned by an American company known as Silver Lake?
Yeah,
Aston Villa is owned by Comcast.
yeah.
Comcast is the holdings company, entertainment holdings company that owns
Sky,
NBC Universal, Sky Sport, all of that.
Sky
Do you
Sports
know?
that pays the Premier League.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you know by chance which companies essentially air Premier League matches? NBC,
America.
Sky Sport, American channels. And did you know, because I don't know if that Premier League gentleman is listening, did you
Oh
know
no,
that
he doesn't have the time to watch live or anything.
Americans invest $2 billion a season into the Premier League? So, Yanks not having a right to talk about the Premier League, bro, the Yanks bail you out for everything. And with all due respect, if it wasn't for the Yanks, you'd be speaking German right now. Did I cook too hard with that one? But it's just like I look at that, it's just the pretentiousness of the EPL. You should change the name from the EPL to the EIL, English Imported League, because your best coaches that make people want to watch your league are not English, and your best players not English. Oh
Best
man, that's
best coaches, Spanish, German, Italian. I'm just saying.
it's just I was gonna say, how's Gary Southgate and that national team doing for them? Oh wait, they lost to Chiellini 2 years ago, 3 years
Yep.
ago. Shit. Huh. Oh. Because apparently, that's the one thing I've always hated is people being pretentious about their league. It's like, dude, I understand Serie A sucks. It's not doing that well, but I still love it.
Yeah.
Like it's still there.
No, look, he can say, "Hey, we gave it to him in the comments. We gave to him the points that yes, it is the most entertaining to watch because offensively, of course, like it's firework. Like every single game is nearly fireworks over there. But the refereeing is worse than it is in the other leagues. Like honest to God, Italy has better refereeing and better VAR use than England. Way better than England. To Spain, they don't have goal line technology and they're better than the English referees.
That was wild.
Hey,
That was
I'm
wild.
sorry, but except of the entertainment and the money and everything you have, all the other leagues are closer to their fans. The ticket prices are actually affordable. I bought like 4 tickets for I wrote you guys for the Olympiastadion, the last home game of my Hertha Berlin club. $70 for 4 tickets directly in the front rows of the stadium. Try to do that in the Premier League.
You can't because it's been Americanized. I'm telling you, like the Premier League is essentially the United States MLS with more money. It's the same
Yeah.
style of footy. There's nothing different. It's just less
Yeah.
quality players. Like
Higher and
I don't.
high and higher attendance averages in the stadiums. And yeah, different football. Sorry that it's not entertaining, but we actually play tactical football, which evidently resulted for good results for the other teams in the Champions League and always on the international level as well. So, bitch, stop crying. If you come into the comments next time, hey, show some love to the other leagues that are carrying you. And do you remember his point that the past years, the past 5 years, the Premier League team you dominated Europe. Your coefficient doesn't show that.
No, it doesn't. Your coefficient doesn't show that at all.
Yep.
It doesn't. And here's the irony of it is, it's like, for example, the moment and the United States really started investing heavily in the Premier League after I want to say 15, 16 is when they started really starting bankrolling cash into it with the TV rights deal and everything. You realize that it wasn't that, for example, with the Prem, it wasn't that their football was attractive. It was just the Messi versus Ronaldo era ended. Like, you ever find how coincidental that is? Like, the moment Ronaldo left La Liga, just the entertainment factor and like people start watching the Prem more. Because like La Liga
Yeah.
was rolling in
But,
money.
hey, but the football at La Liga is still beautiful.
Yes.
Honestly, you can turn on Celta Vigo or Rayo Vallecano or whoever against Deportivo, and you will watch an entertaining game.
It's on it. Like, for
I
example, with the
I I just hate this close-mindedness that, "Oh, every other league is trash." He made the point that Bayern dominated, for the past 11 years the Bundesliga. Yes, you are right, they dominated for 10 years. Last year, they were lucky because Dortmund effed it up in the last game because, they crumbled like an old piece of bread. And Leverkusen dominated this season. And Bayern now has to complete like roster overhaul because a Spanish guy, by the way, again, not an English coach or nobody from your weird island. It was again like European effort, European style of football, not your fireworks, high octane English offensive, high pressing, whatever football. Leverkusen was the best defense in Europe, I think, next to Inter. That's how you win football. But your league doesn't have that because you all are tactical, like completely atrocious. You can't. The best 2 teams defensively in the Premier League are Manchester City and Arsenal, and they play 4 center backs all the time. That's why they don't concede goals. Hey, please, if you try it with actual fullbacks, they will concede like also way more goals.
Yeah, well, and here's the irony of it. In the Premier League, if you concede less than 30, it's like an anomaly. It's like a seasonal record. Where it's like, dude, you know how many
Yes.
teams do that in the other 5 leagues? It's not that crazy. It's a common occurrence. So it's just like
Yeah.
I just look, and I'm trying to be open to all other leagues, right? Like, it's just come on, man. Like, you wanna come in here and start
Dude,
with that.
I am too. I love watching the Premier League. Hey, me too, Dash. Hey, I love all the leagues. I watch all the leagues. I love watching the Premier League. Just don't be that close-minded and shit on the other leagues. If you shit
Pretentious.
on our leagues, I shit on yours as well.
Yeah, it's all about being pretentious, and it's just like I don't know. I just like I don't understand. Like none of it factors into your national team. You're saying your league has no funding of the national team. When La Liga was dominant, when La Liga was at peak, Spain's national team was flipping incredible. Like, that Spanish national team was on
Yep.
fire. Same thing, like, for example, when the
Yep.
Bundesliga, when the German teams were producing decent players, Germany's national team was great.
And
Like,
by
I
the way,
mean, you
we
could
are
argue about
producing players like hell right now again, because we had to go to our junior teams again, because like we have to save our money. We don't just all the teams in the Bundesliga are financially healthy because we don't splash at all. The English teams are in hell's depth depth over there, but their owners can bail them out all the time, which at the Bundesliga they can't, because they are 51% owned by the fans and the club members. Which by the way, I am a member of my club as well, so I have also voted. And this is something that they don't have over there. And yeah, we are producing talents again. Dude, Bundesliga's flourishing, and he has no fucking idea about the other leagues, and that's why, shut up, dude. The next time if you come into our comments, be more more open-minded. B, careful what you wish for, and if you come insulting us. If you piss at us, we will shit back. So yeah.
I got you. Oh, Misak just sent us this on Discord. We'll get to it in just a second, buddy. All right. So the one thing I kind of wanted to cover real briefly is the new rule changes in the MLS and if they will affect anything in Europe. Essentially, it's forcing the referees to be transparent with VAR and also combating time wasting. So, like I do say, check this with an open mind. Credit goes to XG Brighton on Instagram. This is where I found this, but definitely I'm gonna say I'm a fan for this.
Into effect now that the pro ref kind of contract is done, and they can implement these rules they wanted to implement at the beginning of the season, but they did not until all of this other stuff with the refs have been kind of figured out and pushed forward. So there are 3 rules specifically that we're going to be talking about. One is in stadium VAR announcements and how referees will announce and explain things over the intercom. Very similar to how they do NFL stadium ones, where you can hear the refs explain to the crowd what's going on. Because I know for a fact I've been in games, specifically the Columbus and Charlotte game this year. So this will help bridge that gap. Number 2 is going to
So number 1, VAR announcement. So essentially what he's saying here is that referees in the MLS, if there is a VAR ruling or anything, if VAR gets involved, they have to announce it on the intercoms in the stadium to the fans, so the fans know what's being reviewed. So you just won't see, like you see in Europe, VAR review on the screen. And then the next one is going to be this.
Going to be time substitutions. You can't just wait 15 years to come off the field. You can't go around dap all your players up. You can't take forever to take your armband off and give it to the other captain. If you fail to do so, then your team has to play down a man for 60 seconds until your new substitution can come on.
So the next rule is going to be shithouse substitutions, as I like to call them. So essentially, there's teams that'll make substitutions at the end of games to time waste and do all of that. They are giving them a select amount of time to get off the field. If they do not get off the field in that select amount of time, you are going to be down a man. And like, for example, you can say, oh gosh, it's only 60 seconds, right? 60 seconds at the end of the game, that could actually be a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah. The next one is the best.
Yeah, this one's my favorite.
Field. Then the number 1, which I love this rule a lot because a lot of people hate the flopping. A lot of people hate the rolling around on the ground. A lot of people hate all this extra. It's just like kind of gamesmanship, I guess is what some people call it. But it's off-field treatment rule. Okay, so if you are rolling on the ground for more than 15 seconds, you're going to have to come off for a minimum of 2 minutes. A minimum is what it says. A minimum of 2 minutes to receive treatment. And your team will be playing it down a man for 2 minutes. This week's going to be crazy.
So essentially the last rule is, the anti-shithousing rule. So like, for example, if you go down, you need treatment. And if your treatment takes a while, you will have to sit X amount of time and your team will have to play down, which for me, I like it because now you can
Absolutely.
play against teams like Atletico Madrid and not worry about getting shithoused. You can play against teams like Roma and not worry about getting shithoused. I think that puts more genuinity into the game now, because like, for example, you'd have players, it kills it, right? When you're watching the game, whether you're ahead or you're down, those last 10, 15 minutes where they start doing that shit gets really, really annoying. And can you imagine though, like, for example, if you're up against a team, the guy does it, gets a 2-minute penalty or whatever, gets sent out for 2 minutes, that changes the way that the game is going, right? So I'm a big fan for it. I highly doubt that Europe will implement it.
I
I
love it.
think Europe will take forever to do something like this. So, hey, way to go. Yanks are cleaning up the game.
Because the Yanks try to clean up their own games, and they try to carry it over to football as well. And again, we shouldn't be that close-minded to changes. The football games, or the beautiful game of football, always changed over the years. Now we have VAR, we have goal line technology, we have offside rules, we can do 5 changes per game. If it's a head injury, you get an additional sixth change. The game changed over and over and over again, and we can expect for it to change again. The Champions League format just changed for the upcoming season. So
Yeah.
hey,
I'm fine with it. If I'm fine with it. I don't mind it at all. All right. Getting out of the opening shenanigans, we'll talk some Lazio Juve. Gosh, what a frustrating game, to be honest with you, right? Like, you look at, like, for
I
example,
don't even know
Sandro
where
not
to start.
jumping. Yeah, I just like it was a collectively poor, I would say, poor performance. And then it's like you have like flashes, and that's kind of what irritates me with this team, right? They have flashes where they're able to connect 6, 7
Yep.
really nice passes and then botch the finishing for it. And like, for example, I'm not throwing that on Dusan, because that center back from Lazio like threw his left leg there and absolutely like stuffed that shot, because I think Dusan would have scored had he not made the block on it. But people
Yep.
can argue with me and say that Dusan should have made it. Perfectly fine, right? I'm not going to shut that down, which again is ironic coming from me, because I was not his greatest supporter for the past couple of months. But here I am guarding him in a sense. But
Hey,
that game,
if someone proves us wrong, hey, we will learn from it. We take it and we move on. It's not the player to prove us wrong.
yeah, and really that game to me, like, I was really frustrated with Max, with the way that he kind of started the game off tactically and kind of was organizing the squad. And then it's despite the fact that the subs were the ones that got the goal at the end, my issue is just why, because it was almost like one of those things where it seemed like there was hesitation coming from Max, where it was like, let's just go to penalties or let's just go to extra time. And then he kind of shifted. It was like, no, let's actually end this now. And it's just kind of one of those things where it just kind of got on my nerves, where it's like, dude, I don't understand it. You should be able to go through this Lazio side. Like, you should be able to scheme properly. And I understand, right? The players are poor. Like, for example, I thought some people were saying Locatelli played well. I disagree. I disagree wholly with that statement. Locatelli did some of the most stupid things I've seen a midfielder do yesterday. I was just like, dude, like, for example, the second goal, he literally watches the through ball go right in front of him. For a guy that does ridiculous slides to stop plays and whatnot, he just let that one slip through, and that ended up being a goal. And then, like, Bremer forgot to play defense on that second one. I don't know if it was Sandro, not just showing Bremer how not to be a defender, but I think and the funny thing is people are like, why is he starting Sandro? I think he's starting Sandro to surpass Nedved's numbers. I think he's just because
Oh my
Nedved
god,
was
I got so angry with that one.
because Nedved apparently his numbers are close to
How
Sandro's.
many games? How
I don't
many
know.
games does he need?
I don't know. I don't really care.
Like, wouldn't it be enough? Like, if we get the Champions League qualification, and please and play him in the last 2 games or whatever.
I have no idea.
Can't we do that? Why not? Why in a game that counts? I saw the starting lineup and I couldn't believe it, man. Dude, our defense is so comfortable with each other if Danilo or Rugani play on the left. Or one of our basically Bremer, Danilo, Gatti, Rugani. Like whoever starts with them, like I'm comfortable with it. But man, when I saw Sandro start, there's always one mistake. There's always one mistake about to happen. Most of the time, it doesn't cost us. But hey,
it almost
this
did.
time, my God, this game it absolutely like it costed us a goal and nearly the game.
I just like, for example, I didn't understand, like, okay, you've been running, Gatti wasn't available. You've been essentially running Rugani, Bremer, and Danilo, and it's like I never understood the logic in that. Like, that just didn't make sense to me. And ironically, like with Chiesa, right, when he was playing in that free flowing role, he seemed like he was more active in the game. And then when they were really chasing the game and he kind of hogged the left, then he just kind of fizzled out per se.
Yep.
Where it's like, I thought Kostic was decent, but like, again, Kostic is just a stabilizer on the left at this point, right? It's not like you really expect much
by
out
the
of
way,
him.
can we please stop like the damn, I'm forgetting. Sorry, Illing Jr. and every other experiments. Can we just stick to Kostic and Cambiaso as our starters, please?
Yeah,
just stop it. Just stop it. Go for those guys, dude.
Yeah, it's
Sandro played basically fullback yesterday, and man, please, I can't take that anymore.
I can't wait until Illing gets sold, to be honest with you, because I just don't want to. I just don't want to hear that anymore. It's just like, you've seen the difference, and I'm sure Vlad is licking his chops in the chat right now, ready to type it as well. Like, you see the left when Kostic is there, and you see the left when Illing is there. Illing gives you the shock and flare, but at the same time, the amount of space and gaps he leaves behind you. Could you imagine if he left gaps with Alexandro, with how bad he was defending that?
We would have lost like 5-1 yesterday.
Like with Castellanos, that was dicing our defenders. He would have looked at that opportunity and absolutely took it. But again, it's just like, for example, I saw the one meme. It was like 447 days until Szczesny's contract runs out or something like that. That posted, God, that was beautiful. I think Sal shared it, where it showed Ronaldo's noodle hair, and it was like the opportunity to get Allegri sacked and yada yada yada, and then Eric Milik with the noodle hair, because to be honest with you, that goal he scored was practically out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like I did not expect that. Like, I thought Timmy Weah was going to take a shot at net, and then like he takes that cross, and I just see Milik pop out of nowhere and just taps that in. I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm telling you guys on Discord, I'm like, is he on? I'm like, is he on? Like, what the hell was that?
That was pure striker positioning. That was completely
I know.
like anticipation. That was on instinct. He was just at the right spot at the right time.
Because
I can't believe that Weah actually did something, because before that assist, like, he played atrocious. Like immediately 30 seconds after he came on, dude, if you placed that pass, like the left was completely free, but he passed it directly to the defender.
Yeah, he absolutely botched that. Absolutely botched that. Oh, so I found the tweet. So it says, the bastard's finally gone. No trophies for 3 seasons in a row. Tudor's on the edge of winning a trophy before him in 3 games. Montero will take over until the end of the season. Grinta and Power of Friendship will save the UCL spot. And then Eric Milik with the Ronaldo noodle hair. Oh man, that was hilarious. So Vlad gave us some numbers here. Frankie and Vlad were doing the numbers. We're gonna catch up to some of your chats. Holy smokes, we've gone on a long monologue. Vlad says the only thing superior is the Premier League has 90-10. Vlad says rip Mancini's career if the third world gets implemented. Dahl saying Allegri lost the locker room, either change the full team or max. It's blatantly obvious we can't afford a full team. Vlad says first
Yeah, but half a team.
At least half a team's a start. I kind of want to talk about the coach because I saw the thing that Romeo said today. I think it was on Juventus, and it just kind of fuels fire to the frustration I have with journalists right now. What worries me is that we fail to control the game even if we play better. That's why I don't feel confident even if we get a new coach. I still think we will struggle. If we get UCL, it's going to be on a fluke. I mean, we got 5 spots. It would just be an absolute catastrophe if we don't. Gumpacho says Chico did good. That's Chiesa for new folks. Tracking back and stealing the ball. I think Allegri.
Yesterday I liked him. Yesterday I liked Chiesa.
When he was playing
the second. The second half, like he looked a bit tired and out of energy. Like he stayed just there for maybe one genius moment. Like he was completely dead in the second half. But overall, I liked him again. The past like 3 or 4 games, the stretch he has been very very good in my opinion. And he's proving me wrong right now. And if he proves it, hey, I'm the first guy to stand up and say, hey, brother, you're doing good.
He heard he's getting sent to Roma. That's why.
But if you get 40 to 50 million, still goodbye. But I like you a little bit now.
He's getting threatened to get sent to Roma. That's why. Sandro to surpass someone like Nedved is a disgrace. Funny, but disgraceful. Sandro, 326. Nedved, 327. Oh, yeah, he's definitely surpassing that.
See, then we could have done it in the last 2 games. I think
that's counting. I think that's counting yesterday. Maybe Allegri thought yesterday was going to be a cakewalk. Honestly, I think that's what he thought it was. He didn't expect Lazio to score early like that. Because if it's different if you score an opening goal in like the first 10 minutes in a 2-leg tie when you're down 2 versus when you score your first one in like the 50th minute. So like that I don't think he forecasted that properly. Frank says 2 yep. Car dabbing in. Jeff says Sandro is a living, breathing, walking liability. Vlad says Sandro was low-key good yesterday after that botch.
Very low-key.
Very low-key. Gumpacho says, can Gatti play in the final? I believe he can. We're just not going to have Locatelli, and I hope he figures out a solution to have, at this point, I would run McKennie, Rabiot, and Yildiz in that midfield 3. I think that might be worth an opportunity there. Rigani's been our most consistent center back. On our best run came with him and Yildiz. Vlad says Bremer is our most consistent center back. I don't want to imagine our starting X without him. He was a man among boys yesterday until he got bodied off by Castellanos. He got bodied off.
But that was weird. Like it looked like Danilo fell into him, and both of them collided. Due to that was just
I thought it was
by both like a complete misunderstanding. Vlad said, hold up. Vlad commented Danilo as a 6. I have a nice comment on that later.
Gotcha. Gumpacho says if Weah was mid at Lille, then of course he'd be mediocre at Lechuga. That's funny. Alexandro's our best ball-playing center back, but he's just such a liability in the air, and that's kind of ironic, right? Jay Carr says across the pond, it's all opposite opinion to you guys. Yeah. Wait, did they say it was good? Because we said it was bad. I don't know. I said yesterday was terrible. Bone says, shit, anything would be better than Loca. Vlad says Danilo is a 6. That would not be a bad idea at this point, because at least he can pass forward.
I have a way better idea for a 6. A way better idea for a 6.
That's fair. Compatro says Matt can play Regista in the final, and Cambiaso can be the right Mazzala. I think you're better having shit. After McKennie pulled his hamstring, he turned into McKenninho or something like that. Did you guys not see that? Like the moment McKennie pulled his hamstring and was like hobbling all over the place, he was like doing flicks, dribbles, one-touch passes, ball placement, all this. I'm like, does this brother need to pull his hamstring to become like the best midfielder on the roster? Like, that boggles me. Like, that was nuts.
Our assist leader, I believe, 1 or 2 assists only away, like as in Serie A. Like he's the third best, like the third best in assists, I believe, or something like that. crazy.
So. Jürgen coming in saying, what do you guys think about the future of Sule? Why should youngsters pick up the next gen team if we sell them without giving them a chance to? So here's the kind of thing about the youth project, right? With a lot of clubs, youth projects are gateways to first team minutes, whether it's with Juve or another first team. So like, for example, if I am a young player looking at a next gen or a youth team or a B team or whatever you want to call it, I'm looking at which one gives me the most visibility to play and get myself on a first team. It doesn't have to necessarily be Juve. So like, one of the reasons why Ajax is one of the best in the world is because a lot of players that go through their systems get signed for clubs, right? So like, the difference with Juve and other clubs, and let's use Serie A, despite though, and I think this is an anomaly that we have 4 to 5 players playing on our actual first team, they go in there and they go through the next gen project with aspirations of either starting at Juve, starting at Bologna, starting at other teams where they're able to, because the next gen gives them enough visibility for clubs to pick them up. That's why they would want to pick ours in theory, right? Because like, if you look at ours, we've got, within the last year and a half, we have double-digit numbers of players that are playing for first teams in top flight football, right? So looking at it from that perspective, it makes our next gen project very attractive for players, because the worst thing, like, for example, I could be I could be, 19, 20 years old. And let's use Yildiz. Yildiz came to us instead of staying with Bayern is because he knows the visibility of our next gen was better than Bayern's.
And also, like, it's for him, and what the Juve scouting department promised him is that there was no chance he will break through with Bayern. No, not in the squad. Not before like the overhaul they have to do now. There was no chance that he will break through there. He didn't play like any senior game or whatever. He was just with their second team in the Bundesliga third division. And he knows that with us, he has an easier chance of first of all breaking through. Second, even if he gets a loan, he gets consistent playing time. In Serie A, by the way, if we loaned him, he would have played Serie A, not Serie B or G or whatever. And that is still an attractive prospect because they still can show themselves in one of the top 5 European leagues instead of getting loaned to whatever league. So it's for them still a good career step, which is still attractive for them. Either they break through with us and become consistent starters with consistent minutes, or they play themselves like on one of the biggest stages in European football still, and would be like also attracted to other teams, and then they will get their contract and their money that way.
Yeah, and they get paid. And for Juve, their main objective is to get positive capital gains and potentially find, stopgap players to fill in roles for the main team, right? The next gen's real, like I said, the next gen's real thing is A, raise funds for the roster, B, supplement the team with depth pieces. So, like, for example, the cream of the crop of the next gen goes in to become part of the depth of the main first team roster. Anything else that's kind of surplus, like in Illing Jr., potentially Dean Huijsen or Sude and all of them, get flipped for profits. Because, like, for example, Dean, 30 million, Sude, 30 to 40 million,
Yep.
Illing Jr., 20 to 25, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of like one of those things, right, where you can sell those players and then you can get positive impacts, and you can it allows Juventus to spend a lot more money because that is essentially free. That's liquid revenue that's coming into the club. So they're able to essentially sell that. So they sell 100, so they're able to spend 100 versus, because financial fair play works in a sense. And people don't understand this, that Juve is an actually really bad place with financial fair play. Because over the Ronaldo era, they spent more money than they brought in as revenue. And this is something that gets swept under the rug, where the reason why Juve haven't been as aggressive, I would say, and this isn't me scapegoating or, giving them a clear pathway of criticism. It's just that they cannot spend X amount of dollars to commit to a full rebuild. It was going to be a 3 to 4 year build because the amount of money that they're able to pull into play. Whereas now, if you're able to sell 100 million off the next gen, then you can essentially spend that amount of money plus on top of what you've added from club revenue as income too, so you can get a bigger war chest. So depending on those players getting, it's all dependent on those players being moved.
Yep. No, the difference with selling a next gen player rather than a first team player or a player that you bought from a different team. A next gen player gives you pure profit, like we mentioned already a couple of times and explained already a couple of times. Those players give you 100% profit, or maybe out of the 30 million you get, there's a 29 million profit still. And that money, you can use it straight. Like that money is not tainted or anything. That goes straight into your budget, and you can use your revenue money, ticket money, TV money, league position money, and everything. You can use that to finance everything else. So whatever you earn as a profit, you can use that to 100% to your transfer budget without doing a loss or whatever. And that's the reason why it's not only us, all European or all teams in the FIFA umbrella that operate under the FFP, all of them try to do what we are doing good right now, which is building up prospects and be able to sell them for money if needed. If they break through, great for us. And if not, we are able to cash in on them. And that is the positives that come with it. And it's not only us that do it. Manchester City sold Cole Palmer for 40 million or whatever to Chelsea. Manchester United Chelsea sold Mason Mount for 50 million to Manchester United. It's happening, and those are like born and bred. Like for example, Mason Mount is a born and bred like London player, and they sold him. So what is the reason for us to not sell Huijsen, for example, if a good offer comes in?
Well, and also, like for example, I see
It
Dahl made a
has only
comment.
positives.
Yeah, and I see the comment here where Dahl is saying that I think Huijsen's worthy replacement for Bremer, maybe in 3 or 4 years, really, because
Not now.
Huijsen's way too small. He's way too small to occupy that role. He would just be easily
He's
fly
too
swatted
slender.
off the ball.
Hey, can you imagine Huijsen yesterday trying to defend how Bremer defended? Castellanos would have sent him to another realm.
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? Like, if
Same with Miretti.
Yep, same with Miretti
Same
as
with
well.
Sule if he comes back.
Same with Hans as well too. Like they're physically they are tiny. Like for example, the right winger that all the people are losing their mind for in Barcelona that's 16 years old. Like he played against Rudiger, and Rudiger made him look like a child.
And
in
the
El
problem is
Clasico.
he plays so many minutes. They are running him into the ground again. I hate to say it, but that brother, and I love Lamine Yamal. The dude is unbelievably talented. But yes, he has a very slender stature, and he plays every single game in, game out, 19 minutes.
You want to know? An interesting.
That boy, I hate to say it, but he will get injured or hurt or whatever and lose like a big part. Like I don't wish it on him, but it's always with these Barca products. Like Pedri hasn't kicked the ball. Pedri hasn't kicked the ball in a couple of weeks or months by now, and Gavi is still injured for 5 months already, I believe, and he will miss the whole summer.
The interesting thing about those players that because people were talking about, well, that's what Juve should do what Barcelona does. Every single youth player that Barcelona has brought up since Ansu Fati have all torn their ACLs, all of them. There hasn't been a single, except this one currently, right? He hasn't, but if they keep running him like they do, he will eventually. But all of these like Barcelona super talents, these 16, 17-year-olds that they brought up and had them play 52, 53 matches in a calendar year.
They have to play them. They have no money to buy other players, so they have to use them, and that's of course like to the advantage because they are able to develop very quickly because they get lots of minutes and also like have time to do mistakes and learn of those mistakes with all the minutes they get. but it's also to the detriment of their health and their energy, and they burn out way quicker.
Yeah, could you imagine if you played Dean Huijsen for 30 to 35 matches in Bremer's position? He would probably have been injured by now, just due to his sheer size. I think if anything, like I could see Huijsen funding the move for Calafiori. Like that to me doesn't surprise me if that happens. But yeah, it's kind of ironic we went on a segue, but really, in all honesty, with the Lazio Juve match, it's like there's not really much to report on. It's like at this point, what's different? Like, whoa, there's nothing different. The product's terrible. It's a terrible product. It is. Like, for me, it's just I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I just need to get to the end of the season because there's nothing different. There's nothing new. I mean, if we win the Coppa Italia, fantastic. That's fine. We win it. It's just like at this point, the team's like, hey, if we get one of the fourth or the fifth or the third spot, we're good. It is what it is. So that's really honestly what it is, and then we'll kind of revisit. And I kind of want to touch on this comment that Romeo made today at Juventus because it kind of absolutely frustrates me because it's almost like it's like a backpedal on Motta, where like everybody was.
We don't know shit. They don't know shit.
It's so. Let me read it here verbatim. And I don't know if it's quote for quote correctly, but it's just, again, take it as a grain of salt. So he says, I have been saying for months that the football world assumes that Thiago Motta, I hate when he says football world, it's him as well, will reach an agreement with Juventus. There are two things that the club has been, so it's either two things. Either the club is good at misleading everybody or Motta has already chosen one of is the chosen one for the Juve bench. Is it done between parties? Nothing is done until the signatures. I expect more concrete news after the final, the Coppa Italia final. We've said this for the last 8 months now at this point, and everyone's looking at us like we're a bunch of idiots. And it's like, I don't, and this is what kind of irritates me is like you have, Gazzetta, you have all these other journalists, and they're like, hey, yeah, he signed it. He's signing an agreement. He's signing a 2+1. He's doing this. More than likely this. Do these
Rabiot
folks realize?
Rabiot drank a coffee with him.
Yeah, Rabiot drank a coffee with Motta. That's how you know that there's a great rapport between the two. It's like I'm getting sick and tired of these journalists at this point just saying bullshit, backpedaling shit, just messing with stuff around just to stay relevant at this point. And it's like the reason and the reason why that and this is me just kind of thinking a little bit ahead here, that this comment was made was because they're concerned if the Juve job is attractive enough for Motta. Because that's the thing, right? Because if Stefano Pioli leaves Milan, because Thiago Motta, and folks, you need to understand, Thiago Motta has no allegiances to Juventus. No allegiances whatsoever. So there's no boyhood club dreams. There's no Juventino. Hell, he's an Interisti. But there's nothing that any draw to him to come to Juventus, right? So if Milan opens up, if other teams open up, he's not de facto going to select Juventus.
And by the way, it's not only Milan. He is reportedly in talks with Bayern. He's in talks with who was it else? Man, I forgot. He's right now in talks for 3 or 4 other clubs that are searching for a coach.
Yeah, and this
all of them are better options than we are.
We are not, and this is me being objective, guys. Our project is not attractive. You have maybe a great striker and a great center back, and that's it. You can't even play the team isn't even able to play the formation that he wants to play without significant investment. Significant. Absolutely. He goes to Bayern Munich. If Bayern Munich offer him a gig, he's taking it. Bayern Munich can switch into a 4-3-3. Easy.
Yeah.
They have ball playing center back.
Bayern can do Bayern has flexible players for every formation. You can go there and play a 3-5-2, a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 3-4-3. Dude, you can do everything there because they have players that are versatile to play everything that you want of them.
Yeah, and then AC Milan as well. AC Milan has the flexibility to play 4-2-3-1. They have the ability to play 4-3-3, and they have elite wingers in Leao and Pulisic. Say what you want about Pulisic. I said it at the beginning of the season. I said he was going to pop off, and he did. And you have essentially a French Xerxes and Giroud as long as he's healthy. And hell, you could probably bring Xerxes over because that's honestly all that team would need.
Yeah. Hey,
Besides
by the way,
maybe a
they need a new
center
striker because Giroud's gone to LAFC.
So they would just need to replace a striker with a Xerxes and then maybe a center back, and that Milan team is off to the races. So again, with Thiago Motta at Juve, you need multiple pieces and you need to move a bunch of pieces. And he's saying this because Motta hasn't given his "I want to go to Juve." He never did. But a lot of these journalists want to throw this in your face. He signed a pre-agreement. He signed this. They're getting you married to the fact that this man is going to be your coach. Or there's two things that haven't happened. One, the current coach hasn't been even told that he's out. He hasn't. They're speculating because you saw Romano, you saw even Agresti. I believe, or it's expected,
Di Marzio, I believe.
He should leave. That's what they were saying. It's not that he will leave, because when Jurgen Klopp, did a swan song for Liverpool, he said it himself. I am leaving.
And nobody knew about it. Nobody. That's why everybody was so shocked. Nobody. There wasn't a single report on that.
So I'm kind of getting irritated with these journalists and pumping smoke up their ass. And this to me is a red flag saying that there is an opportunity that he's not coming. Because you won't say that unless you have doubts, because they did the same exact thing when Allegri left the first time. Everybody was like, "Oh, Zidane, Guardiola, Zidane, Guardiola." That's what all the journalists were saying back then. Guess what? You got Maurizio Sarri. So that's the other thing where you need to be careful. And I know Beppe said this, so I'm quoting him for it. Be careful what you wish for, because you want him out, and then guess what? Motta says, "I don't want to coach your dumb team. You got nothing. You can't even do what I want to do. And you're giving me a 2+1? That means you don't believe in my project. So why would I sign with you? When I can just go to Milan and do less? Do less and complete with more, essentially." So it's like, next thing later, then you're going to see Twitter go in flames because of that, because we've warned you and we're warning people, do not marry the idea, because no one knows. Nobody will know. So I'm disappointed right now, because it's really, we'll make statements like this to get attention, to get clicks for likes, and now you make and this is backpedaling. This statement is backpedaling, right? When you bring it up when you're having a conversation, this is essentially you Freudian slipping that you don't know, and you're kind of not confident in it anymore, because you'll say this: either the club is very good at painting an image, or he really is the guy that they want. When you say something like that, there is doubt in your voice, because something is going on.
That part, either the club has been very good at misleading everyone, or he is really the chosen one. That part angered me the most in that whole quote, if he said it that way, but it gets reported everywhere like that.
You're an insider.
You are the supposed to be, or so-called insider, and you are telling us if either the club has misled us. Brother, if they have misled anybody, it's you. And it's
you.
And it's your job to look up for the informations, have talks with both sides, and not trust only one side. And the fact that he's saying either the club misled us, it tells me that he didn't check other sources. Because he tried to, with whoever his connection is within the club, he tried to check that one source, and that's it. That's what it looks to me, and what his quote is saying to me. Everybody is trusting whoever their one source is, if they even have a source, and that's it. They're not double checking anything, and this is what we are telling everybody. These fucking journalists don't know shit right now, and to me, they lost all their credibility, like every single one of them.
This to me is, again, this is screaming that there is something going on with the Motta deal. Like that to me is telling me that there's either hesitation from him because he's got multiple options. Either stay at Bologna and play in the Champions League without pressure and play with house money, or you go to a club that's in a better situation than we are. We're not an attractive option. Like, folks need to understand that. It's not me dunking on Juventus and saying that we
or
suck.
to Milan, or to Milan, or to Manchester United, or Chelsea, and all the other clubs coming to my mind. Clubs that can spend money, or Bayern Munich. Brother, we are the fifth on that list.
Because remember when Milan was in shambles and De Zerbi was a free agent essentially, and De Zerbi chose to go to Ukraine instead? Like that's where I think something like this is going to happen, right? Where, everyone's high on this Malta guy, and the coach that reminds me of Malta currently is Giampaolo from Sampdoria before he went to Milan. Played this a little bit more different Christmas tree formation, played ridiculously offensive football, went to Milan and nearly got Milan relegated in the first half of the season. So it's because everyone was like, "Oh, this guy's going to take Milan, make Milan amazing, yada yada yada." Milan didn't win a game until like week 11. That's how bad they were. So I always say it: don't get married to a person or an object that is not in your club. If he's here, love him as much as you want.
Dude,
right now, he's the coach of Bologna.
We were love in SMS for 5 years now, and it didn't happen.
Never happened.
Hey, give up all the so-called reporters that know stuff. Gazzetta, the newspapers, the Agrestis, the Nicolo Shiras, and whatever all their names are. They all said, "Oh, he's only couple like a signature away. Contract is ready. Everything has been agreed with Lazio." Dude, he went to Saudi Arabia. So, hey, don't believe anything they put out till you see an official statement in some way.
Yeah, well, and that's it, right?
That's
like, for example, people need to understand from us here on this channel to all the other channels and journalists, they get paid for every click you do. We really don't make much, to be honest with you. We're lucky to get like 2 cents a video, but again, the point still stands.
Oh yeah, no, not even that much.
It's not even that much. But like, for example, with every click and like, for example, on X, every time you click on their tweet, you favorite their tweet, they're getting revenue. So of course, and this is where I get irritated, where it's just like, you're trying to make this revenue off social media by just going off of complete BS, and then you backpedal because now it's not gonna, because if Motta does not materialize to Juve, you know how many of these journalists are going to lose credibility? A lot of them, as if they haven't already.
They already lost their credibility for me. Like, not just on the Motta thing, just on anything. Like the way they report, the way how it's the whole time. Like they don't speak in actual definite terms, which tells me they aren't sure about their news, because I have a feeling it could be that way. It may or may not happen, and this and that.
I find it ironic how they sucker people in.
I just don't believe anything that comes out of their mouths or their keyboards.
And I'll say this for folks: you need to watch the words that they use. Should, expect, I think, I feel. Those are words that they say, or if it doesn't materialize, they can say,
They have an out.
I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was, right? Like, for example, I've been saying for months that the football world assumes. He said assumes, because he's giving himself an out.
You are the guy. By the way,
you are the guy making the assumption.
You are the guy that should be connecting the club to the football world, but you don't.
It's a lazy post. Well, I mean, it's a lazy comment that was made. Like, I think it's extremely lazy. Where it's like, if someone says, "Hey, what's the deal on Malta?" I don't know. I haven't been released or disclosed any details, because that's the thing, right? Because if he says that, then people are like, "Oh, he's not really as much of an insider as we thought he was." That's it. So you make a statement like this where it still makes it look like you're an insider, but in reality, you still don't know anything. Like, that to me is just extremely frustrating, because like, it's like,
that goes for all of them. That goes for all of them.
It is. If you don't know, you don't know. Like, for example, It's like Fabiana Della Valle. Fabiana Della Valle got the Dusan Vlahovic thing right, which was the only thing she got right for Juve, and that was it. So like even a broken clock is right twice a day, essentially. That's kind of what journalism has been in regards to Juventus.
Yep.
That's honestly it. So like my little monologue here is, guys, please don't take. I understand that there's some folks that throw articles in the Discord for us to look at and discuss, but like, let's not take things literally at this point anymore. Like the only time we'll be able to take anything literally is when Juventus releases something on Instagram that says "Grazie Allegri," "Grazie Weah," "Grazie this," whatever. It is the only time that you know that this person is 100% leaving.
And by the way,
welcome so and so.
And by the way, we have the same with the Calafiori deal. Everybody says, yeah, contacts have been made. Yeah, he's on Juventus top of the list. Hey, all of us want him. All of us think he will fit perfectly. All of us want him. And they know that, and that's why they are reporting on it. And they say, oh yeah, he's on top of the list. Hey, he's on top of my list as well, but I don't have the 25, 30 million to buy him.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and then they'll say, "Oh, they're waiting
with a grain of salt."
And then when Calafiori's not happening, they'll sit there and say, "Oh, it's because they didn't sell Huijsen." Like they'll throw something like that. It's just ridiculous, man. Like I don't understand. Like that to me just boggles me. But let's get on to the main course because we've been going a little bit longer than normal. This is what we really wanted to talk to you guys about because there was a post that came out that was essentially saying that Locatelli, the main event, essentially it was going off that Locatelli is the best midfielder in Serie A, and it was.
Hold up, I have it ready on Instagram if you want it. The original.
Yeah, do you want to share the original post?
Here, this everybody.
Wildfire.
There it is.
It's like any minute now. There we go. So it was Data MB Football. So it says on average, Manuel Locatelli plays the longest passes of any top 5 leagues at 22.8 meters versus Serie A midfielders per 90. Number 1 in long passes, second in tackles, passes to the final third, second defensive duel rate, third. Essentially, saying that he is one of the best midfielders in Europe. And they only used 3 to 4 statistics. And folks in the Juve community took it like wildfire without really researching the context on what constitutes the pass, a forward pass or a progressive pass or anything like that. And really, I don't want to say it was propaganda, but it kind of came off like an agenda because then German Dave and myself were chatting with each other and we're like, okay, this makes no sense because from what we've seen, right? So
5 minutes.
5 minutes in all honesty, but you know how we always say it, right? Don't take one method as your end all be all. And that was one of the things that we argued with the eye test, right? If you just use the eye test and you don't look at numbers to confirm your eye test, then it's not a good argument. Whereas again, with this one, don't take numbers that are thrown in your face without really understanding what the numbers mean. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you want to know what constitutes as a forward pass is, so say that you have Locatelli here, so passes in the opposition's half, and then say that I will throw, just to piss people off, I'll throw Sandro right here. So Loca being, oh, I forgot to do it. Here we go. So what constitutes as a forward pass on the metric is Loca passing the ball wide to a winger. As long as it is going more than 2 yards in a forward motion, that is considered a forward pass. So Loca's passing heat map, if you look at it, is essentially all of his dump balls to the wingbacks in both directions. Loca passing forward as in a straight line or through ball, absolutely atrocious. Not good whatsoever. So the stats were, again, they were harking on, number 1 in stats, or number 1 in forward passes, number 1 in passes in the opposition half. That's essentially the context of his passes. And I'm going to let you go because I know you want to cook. So I'm going to let you cook on it. And again, we're doing this respectfully. We're not saying that Locatelli sucks. We're saying that it is quite easy for someone to take numbers and formulate it to a story. And this is something that we've warned you guys on for a long time, where it's be careful and use your due diligence to do deductive reasoning on these numbers.
Yep. So we were on the topic of long passes, right? So yeah, he's the like number one in long passes. Okay. But first of all, his completion is at 70%, 70.8%. So okay, but not great. He's 41st overall in that one and 14th out of all midfielders. That already tells you, be careful with using those stats with long passing and how many he connected and everything, because lots of them, like Dash said, are those like passes to the wing backs, or even like passes back. If he receives the ball and passes it back to Danilo, it's a long pass completed. It's still a long pass completed.
It is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but that's honestly what it is, right? That, like, for example, if
all good, you can always jump in.
So yeah, it's just kind of like how we drew it there on the image there with Locatelli passing the ball to Sandro there. That is essentially a forward pass in the opposition half. And I know you'll go over this because to be a proper regista, you need to facilitate ball movement, right? But also be able to distribute penetrating balls if you're in the opposition's half or near the box. And you'll talk about how many passes have led into passes through the box and where he ranks there, and also passes that have led to shots. Both of those have been absolutely atrocious.
Oh,
because if I'm Locatelli, go ahead.
No, jump in. For me, there was a pause there for a second. Go for
I
it.
Gotcha. So, like, for example, let's go back to the board, and I'll show you guys on the board too as well. Normally, positioning wise, Locatelli plays the deepest role here, and then he'll pass the ball either to Danilo or Bremer. That again is a forward pass. Or even, like, for example, Bremer being here and Loca slotting the ball through for him. That's a forward pass. So pass accuracy, again, he's on the high percentiles because he's doing movements like this. Those aren't great. Like, for example, in the United States, they call those stat padding. Like, those are stat padding. Those are stat padding numbers.
Yep.
So for him, again, if Danilo is out wide here or if Gatti is out here, this is a 20-meter pass. Easy. That becomes into a 20-meter
pass. It's a long pass, and it's a forward pass, and even counts as a progressive pass because he won there like 10 or 20 yards of room. But that pass is effectively not effective.
It's a non-effective pass because, like, for example, when you look at Loca passing in the top position here, his heat map has nothing in this vicinity. Rarely passes through there.
Yep.
And it's like, for example, the issue that I have is that Loca's the guy that's supposed to be orchestrating it, but there's times where it's not Locatelli, it's Bremer that's in that position. Bremer's not a ball-playing center back.
And hold up. And because JJ said that, you are saying Loca, which I agree, but Bremer have difficulties in passing. Let me prove you wrong in a couple of minutes, because I'd argue Bremer is a better passer than Locatelli. I show you everything. Like, you won't you don't believe me, but hey, it's absolutely true. Unfortunately.
So all the numbers that Dave and myself looked up, and I was looking more so towards comparing Loca with other midfielders in Serie A, but like, it's all from I think it's FBref. I think that's what it's called. Yep, FBref. That's where we've pulled it, and FBref gets all of their numbers from Opta, which Opta is the supplier for all professional teams as far as data points go. So all the clubs pay for Opta to give them the data. So these aren't numbers that we've pulled out of our ass when we start going them. But the idea is I want to paint the tactical picture of where Loca's passes are coming from, where the ball movements are coming from. Because, again, Loca even being here and sending the ball out to Chiesa, and I'm just going to throw Chiesa here, this, again, constitutes as a progressive pass. This leads to absolutely nothing. But again, it's just what the numbers are being constituted as, these directional passes. Even this diagonal pass, this lateral pass is going forward more than 2 to 3 yards. That's considered a forward pass again. It's because the way that Locatelli positions himself on the field gives him the ability to count it as it's stat padding. In all honesty, it is considered stat padding. Am I knocking Loca for it? No, it's not Loca's fault. I'm not saying anything about this being Loca's fault. I'm getting irritated again. So people take these numbers, formulate it into this piece, right? Without any context. Because, like, for example, the first question I asked when I saw those numbers, what counts as a forward pass? What counts as a progressive pass?
Everything.
How is it
nearly everything?
You question all of it. And that's where we took 5-6 minutes on our phones and we're like, oh, because here's what they don't tell you. If you take Chanalogu and you take Locatelli and you compare them neck and neck, when it comes to passes and offensive opportunities created from passes, Chanalogu blows Locatelli out of the water.
Oh, yeah.
Though Locatelli does have more forward passes, has more progressive passes, and yada, 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 and all that other bullshit. Chanalogu beats him in accuracy, beats him as far as like not forward pass accuracy, because Loca's the king of that, because, passing to Danilo, you only miss it like once or twice a game. But when you're looking as far as statistics of going into the box, creating shots or anything like that, Chanalogu is a better player overall. But they didn't want to include those numbers.
Inter's a whole midfield, like all three of their starters are in those metrics better than him. Everything that has to do with creating.
Yeah. And LJJ says Bremer gets confused every time he has the ball on pressure because that's not supposed to be his role.
But for the role he has to do, and I will show you again the numbers in a minute, he looks a little bit confused because like he a little bit like an elephant in a glass shop or whatever. But his actual contribution offensively is so much better than I expected. Like, we see him, and it doesn't fit the eye test. But does he ever, like, try to remember now for yourself, if he does those forward dribbles or does a pass, does he ever lose the ball? He does. He's very sure on the ball. It kind of just looks weird. And I completely changed my mind because I'm always the one that says, "Hey, I don't trust him as much on the ball and everything." But in my opinion, he's first of all our best defender at the ball. Just because he's a goddamn
you can't push
he's
him
a
off.
goddamn stone wall, and that's why he doesn't look as fluent. He looks like a Nikola Jokic out there, basically.
Pretty much. That's pretty much what it is, right? Like, for example, that's why he's been carrying the ball, is because he's more sure on the ball and he's not technically there. And like, for example, folks, and I saw the one comment that someone replied to you on Instagram about, oh, well, that's because he's playing a regista. He's not even playing a regista.
Yep.
Like, that's what irritates me, is like,
and I also answered to the comment and said, yeah, but it is the role of a regista to connect the defense to the attack. So he has to take on a more of a box to box role, receive the ball and dribble with it, or pass it if he has open lanes. But he doesn't do that.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
Problem. So let's read these, right? So I'll take the first bucket here with completed passes. So Locatelli, through Opta's numbers, completed 1,492 passes, 13th overall, 7th out of midfielders. Midfielders in front of Locatelli with completed passes: Chanalogu with 1,817, Lobotka with 1,809, Pessina in 1,639, Paredes with 1,614, Barella with 1,598, and Ferguson at 1,571. Bremer was 14th overall, right behind Locatelli with 1,491 passes. Bremer's not even a regista. These and this is where, like, for example, German Dave, credit to German Dave. German Dave took players that have similar roles on rosters than Locatelli.
Yep.
And Bremer was one behind him.
Yep, that is crazy.
Which kind of goes on to this, right? Where it's like, you see how when we start painting the picture and start showing things together, it seems very, very odd, right? So it's like this is starting to kind of connect the pictures where it's like, okay, so they've connected more passes, etc. So that's the one thing, right? The midfield is easy because you're a midfielder, you're supposed to be facilitating attack and movement, but it's the intent or what the passes are being done with, which is also a big thing, right? So now when we look at passing yards, Loca has passed 30,378 yards, 6th overall, 2nd out of midfielders. The only midfielder in front of Locatelli is Chanalogu with 33,216.
This is one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites.
Bremer is 4th overall, ahead of Locatelli.
Whole Serie A
is in passing yards, ahead of Locatelli with 31,325 yards. That is outstanding that your center back, who does not have ball movement, ball distribution skills, is 4th in the league.
Who we thought he doesn't.
Allegedly. Who we thought couldn't move the ball, apparently moves the ball better than our 5, which I thought is just holy smokes. Like, that to me is absolutely insane. And it's like, and you look at the numbers too. Like, for example, if you compare his numbers from Sassuolo to Juventus, he's touched the ball less at Juve than he has at Sassuolo. It's like he doesn't want the ball. Like, that to me is just one of the other things that I find just absolutely ironic. All right, moving on to the next bucket here.
This is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. Let me cook this one up.
Okay, go ahead.
Progressive passing yards, but only passes towards the direction of the opponent's goal. So no passes to left and right or whatever towards the touchlines and everything. It counts only passes towards the goal. Passes
penetrating passes.
Yeah, penetrating passes. Thank you. Loca passed for 9,923 yards towards the opponent's goal. 8th overall. It discounts goalkeepers because most of the goalkeepers long passes and everything go towards
pass.
Yeah. So he's 8th overall in that. 3rd out of midfielders, which kind of surprised me. But Bremer, my man, 3rd overall in the whole Serie A with passes towards the opponent's goal. 3rd overall in penetrating passes. And he's in front of Loca with 11,505 yards.
11,000.
11,000. Yeah, 11,000.
He is practically nearly 2,000.
That was my Dinglish.
2,000 yards.
2,000 yards.
So it kind of bows on to what you
that create offensive action. And by the way, that leads me to the point I wanted to make to Vlad. Forget Danilo as a 6. Can we play Bremer as a 6?
Yeah. He's physical. He doesn't get bossed off the ball, and he can pass the ball forward.
And he can pass the ball.
Like that's where I look at it, and you start breaking it down, right? And it's absolutely insane. Because, like, again, Paredes ahead of him. Chanalogu ahead of him. Paredes, the guy that we all ostracized last season. Apparently, he's been doing a lot more. But again, like, when you look at progressive passes, and this is what the threshold of the progressive pass is. It's not because 2 yards ahead of you. It's ball is going towards the net, a penetrating ball.
Oh, yeah.
It's not doing that well. And then when we look at the completion percentage,
Bremer leads 1,500 yards in front of Locatelli. 1,500.
And this is where, and kind of how JJ says, right, they're going to still whine and say because he's not playing his position. It's because he doesn't want the ball. He's not making himself available for the ball. Like at that point, like, I get irritated with that narrative, right? Because, like, for example, he's playing in a regista role. No, he's not. Regista Roll should have the most touches compared to anybody on the pitch. If you look at the touches numbers, Bremer has more touches than Locatelli. Bremer has more touches than Locatelli. Again.
By the way, Bremer is sold up. I have the number in touches. Loca had up until now 2004 touches, 14th overall. Bremer 2073 touches the whole season, 9th overall. 9th overall in the whole Serie A.
That's insane.
Serie A.
Like these numbers
in Serie A.
These numbers are making a case that Bremer should be a center defensive midfielder at this point.
Yes.
Like that is absolutely nuts. It's like Vlad is saying Bremer is Chouameni on steroids at this point.
Dude, progressive passes. I repeat, 8th overall. 3rd overall progressive passing yards.
That is like you look at that and you're just like it's unbelievable in all honesty, right? It's absolutely
and by the way, those numbers shouldn't be that high if you have a regista that receives the ball from his goalkeeper or from Bremer.
So it begs the question again.
The reason why Bremer has these numbers is because Bremer passes past Locatelli because Locatelli isn't free, or he dribbles past Locatelli because the ball is moving forward, because it's progressive yards towards the opposition box. That means forward passing, straight forward, no diagonal passes or whatever. That means the ball passes Locatelli on every single one of those passes. Which means he doesn't receive a ball from Bremer, or barely.
No.
That's what it's telling me, because Bremer is playing through the middle or dribbling through the middle and then passing it through the middle. Which tells me Locatelli isn't where he's supposed to be or doesn't free himself up.
No, and that's again, like for example,
Brother, I found complete dude. I loved Bremer before. I completely found new appreciation for him today.
I did too. I know. Dude, when we were looking at these numbers, I was just like, oh my gosh.
Dude, I prepared this paper today, 1.5 pages. Like I crunched through FBRS numbers for a couple of hours. It's incredible.
It's like, hey, we can play in a back four. We just need to move Bremer up in the regista role and have Locatelli play the pivot next to Bremer at this point. Shit. Yeah. Play a 4-2-3-1. Locatelli and Bremer right next to each other.
Dude, nobody can penetrate that midfield.
No. Because you'll have Locatelli that's playing defense and Bremer's elite ball facilitation. Like, okay, let's have some fun here, right? Locatelli pass completion percentage 70.8, 41st overall, 14th out of midfielders. Midfielders ahead of Locatelli: Artur, another regista; Bondo, another regista; Lobotka, kind of a regista; Koulibaly, Bolka, Abishaister, Linetti, Aguasina, Pessina, Mboku, Reiners, Blin, Ferguson, and Bremer. No, Bremer and Locatelli are practically tied. Bremer has 70.7% pass accuracy to Loca's 70.8.
He's one place behind him overall. Loca 41st overall, and Bremer 42nd overall in whole Serie A again. And by the way, McKennie 43rd. Also with 70.7.
Because, if you're actually a regista, it should be higher than 70.8.
Dude, he has virtually the same percentage. Can we please move him forward and let him try the long passes? Even more?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Like, it's just like you guys are saying in the chat. I kind of wish Fagioli played this season just so we can actually see what the actual difference is here, because this is insane that your center back, in theory,
he has more touches, the same pass completion, the same long pass completion, better penetrating passes, better dribbling skills, better defending skills. At this point, give him the job.
Oh, yeah. Here, let's have some fun with this. passing or pass combinations that led to shots. Locatelli with 20, 104th overall, 29th.
Here it gets atrocious.
29th among midfielders. Midfielders in front of Locatelli, you left it as list too damn long. And then McKennie 36th, Rabiot 77th, Beretti 86th, all in front of Locatelli. So again, it can be interesting because, to be honest with you, we didn't think about it, but if we compare to a Jorginho, I think Jorginho would blow this out of the water. But again, passes that are leading to shots, you can kind of give him a little bit of a pass here because he's playing deep. But again, if he plays as a proper regista that's facilitating the offense, he should be able to have a killer pass that goes through, right? No,
and by the way, it's not required that he has the killer pass that leads to an assist. It's called pre-passes. It counts the first pass into a passing combination that leads to a shot. This counts like every important pass basically to create some offensive action. This isn't like I know he from how deep he sits. I don't expect him to be our assist leader or whatever. But for him to, like 104th overall, 29th out of midfielders. Do you realize how many teams are in Serie A?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's the other one, too, where I talked about where I kind of gave you the diagram there at the beginning. Passes into the opposition box. Locatelli's completed 27 of those, 41st overall, 10th out of midfielders. Midfielders in front of, and this is where it gets outrageous, right? Barella, 69, Alberto, 44, Bonaventura, 42, Mkhitaryan, 40, and that's why Inter's ridiculously successful.
Every single one of the midfielders is on that list, like crazy.
Yep, Chanalogu 36, Ederson 36, Zielinski 35, and Reiners at 34.
And Zielinski will go to Inter as well. Dude, their midfield will be OP.
Their midfield's going to be insane next year. Kostic right behind Locatelli with 26. With 26 passes into the opposition box. So that's also kind of another argument why our midfield sucks, right? Because it's only Kostic and Loca that are able to make passes into the opposition box.
I wrote Kostic there as a fun fact because Kostic with his crosses and everything, you'd expect him to be that far forward. But it's crazy that Loca is just 3 places ahead of a guy that's job it is to professionally cross into the box.
Yeah,
he should be way higher than that.
It should be. I wonder if we have the stats of how many times he's crossed the ball into people's asses, but whatever. The idea that we've brought these numbers and the reason why we had this discussion, right, is because, again, we saw the post. Locatelli is the most amazing midfielder in Serie A, best midfielder in Serie A by these metrics, and they only gave you 4 metrics. They didn't show everything, because if you look at everything here and you look at everything from a holistic approach, because like I said, eye test should not be what you're basing all of your arguments on. The eye test should be something that says, wait a minute, something doesn't make sense here, because you're telling me, 2 + 2 = 4 or 5. That doesn't make sense to me. Let me look into it a little bit deeper, right? That's kind of the idea that we want to promote here on this channel, is just being able to do deductive reasoning, some critical thinking, right? Because as you've seen it and as we've yelled about it with the journalists, right? People can throw stuff in your face and you'll think it's gospel, right? And we really do want people to look at it and kind of look into it deeply, right? To kind of have a more holistic approach to it, where it's like, okay, why are they saying that Loca is doing this? This doesn't make sense to me. Let me research this a little bit more so I can get a better grasp, because like the only thing that I saw, right, is Manuel Locatelli ranks first among Serie A midfielders for forward passes, long passes, passes into the final third, tackles, and block shots.
And then Bremer is literally better than every other metric.
Yes. And then it's like, okay, great. Then, and this is where I kind of get ironic here, right? Passes into the final third. That is essentially sending the ball to your wing back. That is what that means.
To whoever. The final third is a block. Wherever the ball lands there, it counts as a pass into the final third.
If you give a 1-yard pass to Rabiot, that counts as a pass into the final third at the edge of the box. If you roll the ball to Chiesa for him to dribble into somebody, that counts as a pass to the final third. A long pass, again, if he's playing as the deepest person and he's sending a 20-yard long ball to Gatti on the edge, that's a long pass. That's considered a long pass. Tackles, again, he's doing a lot of tackles because he's essentially playing as a center back at this point.
Yep. And by the way, you have to take that again with a grain of salt. Passes in the final third is a nice and fun stat, yes.
It makes it seem nice.
But then the actual pass into the box,
Is atrocious.
It's 41st overall in the league.
Because, like, for example, if we go into the diagram, right? Let's go into the dashergram here.
Now you have to cook, my brother. That was my part. Now your turn.
I gotcha. Say less. So, for example, passes into the final third, that equates to this whole area here in theory. Because Locatelli, if you look at Locatelli's heat map of where he passes and where the ball goes, let me do this because this will make it easier. These are where most of his passes are coming through. Mostly here. Because what he does is he dinks it for Chiesa over here, or he dinks it to Weah or McKennie over there. So he's moving the ball in this area here, expecting them to cross into the box.
Yep.
And when you essentially give off a stat like that, that to me just screams disingenuity to that stat, because you're essentially saying that, oh yeah, he's great at moving the ball here. Yeah, because he always does that. That doesn't mean that it's productive. If you're sending 100 passes to Chiesa over here, you're kind of an idiot as a midfielder, because why are you forcing the ball in the same exact position where nothing's coming out of it?
Can I say something to that makes me also angry? All the teams that we play against give us the wings. They give us those crosses because they know we aren't accurate from them.
Yeah.
Our wing backs or Chiesa or whoever is always free. And that's why he connects on 70% of his long passes, because the people he passes to are free, because the opponents are giving us that room and stack the box so we don't create from inside, because we actually finally like our striker developed some strikerism. And that's what they fear, and they stack the box to not let him score.
Well, it's all they do. It's all teams that do against Juve is what they do. Stack the box. That's all they do. There's not a tactical masterclass on how to stop Allegri. Stack the box, and Allegri's teams won't know what to do.
Yep.
So, like, for example, it's the same exact thing he did at Sassuolo as well. The only difference between Sassuolo and Juve is he had inverted wingers in Boga and Berardi that were able to cut in and take shots and score. That's why he had better assists, and those numbers look a little bit better. We don't have inverted wingers at Juve. Your wingbacks are essentially just spamming crosses into the box and hoping something sticks. That's why, like, for example, but at Sassuolo, he looks so amazing. It's because you look at the wing play that Sassuolo had under De Zerbi as well. They're going to make him look good, because you had Boga, who was, at that time, I hated playing Sassuolo because of Boga, because Boga had pace.
By the way, and the 4-year younger Berardi.
Yeah, a Berardi that everybody wanted at the time before he tore his Achilles. So when we look at that and we put this whole picture, and it's like, for example, I understand, right? Like, I understand people defending Locatelli. And again, I'm not saying, and this whole discussion has not been that we butcher Locatelli. No. My discussion.
It's a contrast. It's a contrast that there are two sides of the medal.
Yes, there is two sides to every statistic and number and every statement, right? We've always tried to have that conversation with folks, is let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's look at it, because, like, there is a lot that I need Locatelli to improve on for him to be a world-class midfielder, because I've said it and I will say it again. If he continues at this current trajectory that he is at, he runs the risk of becoming another Montalivo. Another just middle of the road Italian midfielder that had some promise when he was young and kind of fizzled out. And there is lots of concerns with positioning, with his ability to read a defense, with his ability to facilitate a ball. Those have been all objective critiques on Locatelli. Maybe I might have filtered it out one time and said he sucked. Sure, fine. It is what it is, right? But I'm not saying that he just sucks and just leaving it at that. No, it's not how we do things here. We want to say, hey, he's bad because of X, Y, and Z, not because he's just bad. Because you can't have a conversation out of that. And it can't be productive at all. And I'm kind of leaning into this, to what Vlad said in the chat. If anything, above all else, it kind of shows how much Fagioli not being present on this roster hurts.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't like Fagioli because of the betting that he did. That to me rubs me in the wrong way. And I can be rubbed in the wrong way. It is what it is. I'm not denying the fact that Fagioli has the ability to facilitate the ball, is very creative with the ball. I'll still say that. But again, for me, my biggest question mark for Fagioli is either he will come into the season distracted from the gambling issue, or he'll come into the season like Lukaku.
You just wake up and then your heart is just pumping. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, so those moments are crazy.
There you go, Vlad. I hope you're happy. And yeah, kind of like how Vlad says, I think McKennie's future is at wingback. I think McKennie might make that Trent Alexander-Arnold conversion at some point.
Yeah,
I think
the conversion back.
Yeah, the conversion back essentially, because I don't know. I don't see a future for McKennie being in the midfield, but that's kind of what it is, right? Like that's one of the biggest issues why we've kind of stumbled in this half of the season is because there hasn't been good play from Loca.
No,
there hasn't. As far as
unfortunately not. Hey, we want him to be great. We want him to be good. It's not like we want to shit on him or whatever, but we have to expect a standard that is above average, and right now the problem is it's average.
Yeah, and you can make that argument for the whole
especially
roster.
The past months where he hides from the ball. Dude, if I had a couple of hours more in my day, but I don't because I work full time, I study full time, I go to the gym for a couple of hours and everything, and I watch sports the rest of my day. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. But if I had the numbers prepared from before a month ago to what his numbers are now, I bet you his numbers are lower and worse right now than they were a month ago or 2 months ago.
Yeah, I would agree so as well. I agree so as well. So again, this kind of bring this conversation to a close more so. He needs a better ball facilitator next to him. And that's again, whether or not Gentoli wanted to do it in January, which I think allegedly Allegri wanted, but they fumbled the ball on that one. We'll see, right? That's going to be imperative. If Gentoli doesn't recognize that as an issue, then I will question his ability as a sporting director if he doesn't do that. So to end, and this is something that kind of caught people, and I should have mentioned this earlier, but people, I personally didn't get pissed. I just thought it was corny. But so Marco from IFTV was reporting for CBS. He was at the San Siro for when Inter secured their second star and was like, not for me saying this, but quotes from Juventino on X celebrating like a giddy schoolgirl that Inter won the Scudetto. And it rubbed up a lot of people in the wrong way. Like, personally, if I were to give my personal opinion on it, for me, it's corny, right? Like, I think it's corny. Am I going to sit there and like berate the guy? No, he's a nice kid. He's a nice kid, just lacks social awareness, because it's like the reason why I say I think I can pull the clip up here so we can see it. But the reason why I say that it's kind of a lack of social awareness on his part, and I think he could have handled it better, is he came up through notoriety. Like, for example, he worked for Juventus on their Twitch channel. So like you're exposed to Juventino as Juventino. Like if you, just like Dave and myself, like we've worked on the actual page for Juve. So it's like people have seen us on there and they're going to essentially say that, hey, you're a Juventino because you're working for Juventino. Like, why would you not be a Juventino and then work on Juventino's social media page? So here's kind of the scenes, right, where it rubbed people in the wrong way, where it's like, again, you're Juventino and you're celebrating at Inter clinching the Scudetto, and it's like, right, and people took it the wrong way, which I can understand why people took it the wrong way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and shit on the kid, right, because he's doing what he wants to do. But I just found it ironic where it just became an absolute Twitter war over it, right? Where people were just like losing their minds over it. Like, I understand the optics look very, very bad. Am I defending him? No, I'm not defending him. I really don't care at all. Personal opinions of mine. It's just, you have to be self-aware when your come up was associated with Juventus, right? Because when he was on IFTV, he was speaking about Juve, talking about Juve. And you're Italian as well, so you understand the tribalism that comes with Serie A teams too. So like you kind of need to have that social awareness to understand where it's like, hey, I'm covering this game for work, but I'm not going to, be overly, because like for example, Del Piero. Del Piero works for CBS, Paramount, and does all of that stuff. He's covered Inter games. He's done things like that. There's being professional, and then there's being, over the top, right?
Yep.
So, like for example, Del Piero will call Inter stuff and just kind of be like, yeah, it is what it is, right? Blah blah blah. Kind of just keep it professional. Or even like for example with the Roma scarf, you wouldn't touch the Roma scarf. He's like, I'm not touching it. I'm sorry. I'm not saying everyone needs to be like Del Piero, but like that's kind of like being professional, but also maintaining your dignity. When you celebrate a team that was essentially trying to wipe your team off of the face of the league, you kind of have to understand that it rubs that fan base the wrong way, especially when you're a public figure, because whether he likes it or not, he is now a public figure.
Yep.
He is someone that is on TV. You are a public figure now. And when people have receipts of you, of things that you've said, way that you would do things, etc. And now, like for example, me, I've always questioned and I've always, thrown feedback of, how he does analytics and stuff like that. Never, I'm not gonna go as far to throw like his integrity out. I don't care, right? But the one thing is I always say is that a lot of Juventino never forget, right? So when you do a celebration like this and you go over the top and you're like, oh my gosh, your second star, Thuram, I love you, and yada yada yada, it rubs Juventino the wrong way. And I understand why it rubs them the wrong way, and rightfully so. So it's just, look, he's working. I understand that, but I think it's just one of those things where I think he needs to understand the optics. And Matteo Bonetti replying by saying a bunch of unemployed Juventino. I don't want to say it verbatim, but I believe he said the comments that we see here in the intersection between the unemployed and the envious. And it's like, dude, you just called a good chunk of a Juventus fan base that pay money to watch your guys' shitty commentary unemployed or envious. Like that to me rubs me in the wrong way. Yep. And that's where I will throw something back at you. Do you not realize that those people pay your damn bill? Even though I know CBS doesn't pay you guys that much because CBS is the cheapest out of all the anchors inside the United States, unless you're an NFL guy.
Because all their money goes to Thierry Henry for Vlad, to Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards, and Kate Upton. Their whole budget goes into that.
Yeah, it goes into that. So like that to me is like where I sit there and you say, and it's like, oh man, they're coming. Oh, you guys are just bums and yada yada yada. It's like, dude, it doesn't help. And also those bums are paying for your bum platform that you guys can barely stream games properly on. Like you realize that essentially Paramount Plus only works on Roku TVs and Xboxes and other consoles. Well, doesn't work good on Amazon products, on Amazon Fire Sticks and stuff like that because of the patch notes. It sucks. The amount of glitching, and on my computer for watch alongs, I can't even rewind properly without it automatically skipping for no reason. So Dave and I have to legitimately share a stream on Discord just so we can synchronize our streams. It's, if I use Peacock, I can do that. I can synchronize. We've synchronized wrestling streams on Peacock because it's easier to do. I've done it with Premier League watch alongs with other people. So like, again, that to me is just Mateo's comment was a comment of privilege in a sense. I'm high in my ivory tower, and anyone that, throws anything at me is jealous or unemployed.
A peasant.
Yeah, like that to me is like, dude, and this is what irritates me about Mateo. Because like, for example, Marco, I know he's in his late 20s, right? But he's still a kid. Mentally, he's still a kid. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's like, I understand where he makes slip ups, but Mateo's been a professional in the industry. He's been worked at Being Sports. He's worked at ESPN. He's been around. And that you make a comment like that, it's kind of really dumb, to be honest with you. Like, dude, people are pissed off. Understand why they're pissed off, and you move on. It is what it is. And then, like, for example, you have a Napoli fan that comments on there too that ironically is defending it, right? Where he says, there are also those who are fervent Juve fans that despise Inter. They are allowed to be disappointed in this. I'm sure there are many Juventini who wouldn't do this any amount of money, because the argument that they threw at him is, well, he's getting paid, he's doing it for work, he's living his dream, and yada yada yada. It's like, dude, it's called having dignity. It's called having integrity, right? Like at one thing, and then like being able to say, oh yeah, sure, that's fine, but when these fans are offered full-time jobs at major networks covering the league, they'll turn it down because of some fake morality nonsense. No, and this is where I get irritated with, and you know, I'll show the interaction here because it makes no sense to me. I think it's a really dumb interaction by Bonetti here, where it's like, oh, if you guys are getting paid, you would do the same thing, and it's like, no, stop it. So Sanso, who is a big Napolitano, says again, the comment that I said there. Matteo responds, sure, when these fans are offered full-time jobs at a major network covering the league, and I love how he says full-time job, but if you actually look at the annual salary that a pundit makes for CBS, it goes from $35,000 to about $60,000 a year. So they're not really making that much money. That's like above minimum wage. Covering a league, they'll turn it down for some like fake morality nonsense. It's not a matter, Matteo, it's not a matter of turning it down for morality. It's, I won't rub people in the wrong way when I've built, because here's the thing. I can't really use myself because I've been on camera talking about Juventus, right? But if I'm Vlad is in the chat, right? We don't like Vlad's never been, you know, had a public opinion on something besides what's in the chat. I'm just using you as an example, buddy. If Vlad gets a job at Sky Sport and is covering stuff, it's different.
Turns on Rabiot. Oh, you traitor.
Yeah, people come for him for that. But like, for example, if the random guy on the street that knows Serie A, that's following Serie A, that has a favorite team, that hasn't made a previous brand off of himself tied to something, has a little bit more leeway to do this. However, for Marco has grown through his brand, IFTV, with conjunction with Juve. He asked Juventino to vote for him to be part of the voice for Twitch. It was him and Beppe, right? Those, and then they ended up picking both of them. He worked at Juventus. So there's other folks that have worked for Juventus or done stuff for Juve that have covered Inter, that have covered Milan, that have done all of this. And they make professional, like, hey, you know, they played well, they did what they needed to do. Again, Del Piero is the prime example of that, or how he handles it professionally. Chiellini has done things like that. All of these guys have done stuff like that, because Matteo's response to that is, because Lucas responds, that's calling selling out. No Juventino should ever sell out to become an Interista or vice versa. It doesn't matter the price of employment or the position. You can't put a price on betrayal. That is an Italian thing. And the fact that both of them, Matteo and Marco, don't understand that baffles me. Matteo responds with, every player, manager, commentator.
It's not just Italian. It's common sense to not go against your own principles. If you do that, you don't have principles. That's the bigger thing for me. Either, and this is my only point about this one, because I don't care about them, because I barely ever watch the Paramount Plus stream. So I don't care about like a single soul of them. But my only problem with it is either you are so tone deaf and negligent that you thought, hey, I work there, but hey, it's no problem if I do this, or, and this may be even worse, he did it like by design.
Yeah,
it's one of the two. Either he's negligent or he did it on purpose.
It's
only those two.
It's either you're, again, a snake in the grass, or you're just really stupid. That's one of the two. Yep. But like, for example, and this is where, again, this for me, out of anyone in this situation that took the bigger loss, it's Matteo, because it's like, dude, you're an experienced anchor. Why are you arguing with people on X? You should know this by now. Because, like, for example, in all honesty, these guys threw it right back in his face, because so Lucas says, hey, like, it's called selling out. And Matteo responds with, every player, manager, commentator grew up supporting a team. Things change when it becomes a job and you're expected to be professional. Being professional and being overly giddy is two totally different things. Yep. And like, for example, Dennis says it here. Many of these people don't celebrate their rival goals and don't hide their fandom. There's a difference between being a professional and celebrating Inter titles. Also, many who judge you are not unemployed and have a higher salary than you. So not everyone would sell out. I make more than them easily. Do you see me doing that? No. So it's like, and like, it's just, that's one of the things where it's just like, you see stuff like that and it's just absolutely ridiculous. And like Matteo to me is acting like a 20-year-old child that finally got Twitter for the first time with based off of these responses. So you want to talk about professionalism, dude, you're not doing it.
Yep.
You're not at all. But I'm the unemployed guy now, right? Because I criticized his take. Like that to me is just insane. And then, like, for example, you have this goober over here that says those Juventus fans don't know how unemployment works. Well, that guy doesn't know how to do a lot of other things as well. But
or YouTube channel or
like,
a merch shop or
it's just like I sit there and it's just like, that is ridiculously cringe. And ironically, that individual just called out his own fan base for being unemployed too, because again, he's tone deaf. But like I said, I personally, like, I don't have an issue with him being at the game and covering the game for work. I agree with a lot of the sentiment that people are making as far as the issue goes, where you're celebrating essentially your rival team that tried to bury your team and you're celebrating their second star. Like, for example, being an anchor, clapping your hands like, congratulations, nice job, fair play, shake hands, you do that. But when you're acting like a giddy schoolgirl, when you're interviewing Marcus Thuram and you're doing all of that stuff, right? Where you have to have the self-awareness to understand that, hey, I might be rubbing people in the wrong way. So I just, that's what I think about that whole situation is I think it was poor awareness. That's honestly what it is. Should Marco be like, harpooned by people on the internet? No, I don't think so. You can sit there and say like, bro, that celebration, rubbed me off in the wrong way. But, like going out and just like saying nasty things to him, I don't think that's productive. I don't think that's a productive way. That's bullying. And that's not good. That just makes you look stupid, really. Right. So it's like, I just like, I don't know. Like, I think it's poor self-awareness, but I mean, he's had a track record of poor self-awareness with a lot of takes and a lot of stuff. Right. So that's why for me, I'm not, oh, this guy's a sellout and yada, 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 because like people are calling him, like, for example, a lot of people that have consumed their product, Juventino that have consumed the IFT product for years are calling him a grifter now because of it. And that's not a good thing to be called. So it's like, I understand why they're saying it. Do I think it's a big deal? No, because he does this stuff, right? It's, again, like I said, it's a kid. That's honestly what it is. Like, it is what it is.
Yep.
I'm sure this will blow over, but I think the one thing that, like I said, the one thing that rubbed me off in the most way was Matteo being an absolute arrogant douchebag to people with this. Cause like, that's like, oh, you're just mad because you're not me. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. Or you're just unemployed. And it's like, dude, no. If he pissed off the wrong person, that person could probably look up his entire employment record and all of that stuff and just and just make him look really bad. Yeah. So it's like, you got to be careful with stuff like that. And again, like I said, Matteo is an experienced anchor who has been around and should know stuff like this happens and he should honestly be being a bigger brother to Marco and say, hey, look, I get why you did it. Like, for example, the conversation that I would have had with him if I was in the situation, I'd be like, look, I understand this is the first time you've seen a Scudetto being clinched. I understand it's emotions in the air. It's crazy, the celebrations and all of it. But you got to remember, you came from a Juventus background. Juventino get rubbed the wrong way. Just be a little bit aware on that. And that's it. That's all you have to have that conversation for. You don't need to go on Twitter and start calling people unemployed and start arguing with random people on Twitter. That just makes you look stupid. But I've spoken my piece.
And by the way, if you are a Juventino, which to me it looks like he doesn't, you would have the awareness that the fan base right now is just a spark away from exploding. It's pure dynamite right now.
It is.
And if you are the spark because you are not aware of the situation in the club and in the fandom, then sorry, you're dumb as a box of stones. Like, Chad Gable just said on Monday Night Raw.
I'm dumber than a box of rocks, Maxine Dupree.
Rocks it was, sorry, not stats.
I love how you did that, but yeah, that's honestly what it is, because you need to understand, like, for example, Sal, or not Sal, Carr, but you have to understand, for example, Juve, there's a coalition of Juventino that have found potentially numbers that could damage Inter Scudetto this season, because, if it's true, then they're financially in the red. And you have, again, the way that Juve have been, and essentially of the club not being doing well, and etc. And now you're essentially taking all the Allegri out fans and all the Allegri in fans, and you've essentially unified them to come after you. And they're all on the edge right now. And doing something like that is just ridiculous. Like I said, I understand. Like, you don't see, like, for example, have you ever seen Jamie Carragher sit there and just loathe and celebrate for Man United?
Nope. And Gary Neville the same, not for Liverpool. If one of them wins the title, they shake hands and everything, or if they beat the team. Do you remember the 7-0 win from Liverpool over Man United?
Yep.
Gary Neville was pissed at hell, but they shook hands, and Gary Neville did not all of a sudden like start celebrating Liverpool's goals. You can have like a professional rivalry, professional fandom, and whatever, but there's always the word professionalism in it. If you are Thierry Henry,
he doesn't celebrate for Real Madrid.
If you are Thierry Henry and your team Arsenal gets busted by Bayern Munich, he's still like at that show showed professionalism. He wasn't pissed like whatever. He just continued to do his job. It's called being level-headed, no matter what the result is, positive, negative, no matter who you support. If you are on a stage like that and mainstream media, you have to be level-headed and be careful of your image, be careful of what you portray, be careful like what your principles are. Be level-headed. Don't be extreme. Not positive, not negative. Like, sorry, not to the most positive extreme, and also not to the most negative extreme. Be level-headed. You can live out your fandom. It's okay. You also can live out your antipathy towards some of your former club's rivals or whatever. You have to be level-headed. You have to be level-headed.
You have to. And in all honesty, I'm more so, I can't wait until Paramount loses Serie A. I just hope that happens sooner than later, so I don't have to deal with that panel. Like, and it's again, like Vincenzo says here, like, he has a track record of doing stuff like this, and him and the Paramount Plus gang were saying or chanting "Ci non salta e Juventino" when Napoli won last year, and that's like essentially dogging your team that you grew up with, you came up with, right? So it's having the awareness, and that's where I kind of find Paramount Plus very ironic, right? Was they're trying to make calcio popular in the United States, and they're trying to get, follow the customs of it, and you have stuff like this happen, and it's just like, Italians are tribalistic, man.
Can you imagine how much better Paramount and Calcio in the US would do if they promoted a little bit more their most popular team instead of shitting on it?
Yeah. Could you imagine if you actually had a panel of former Serie A players that actually understand the league and understand things better than a guy that's bounced around 3 different studios before he got to Paramount Plus, a guy that was, that had a YouTube channel, and you only have, again, Mike, who is the only former player on that panel. Poppy, she played college, and that's it, right? So again, it's a budget crew compared to what they use for the Champions League, because CBS put all of their money in the Champions League.
Yep.
All of it.
It's like ESPN putting all their money on Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, and then what is it? Also, like, for example, I forgot that one Liverpool defender and all those guys, like ESPN FC. Like, the only person that was like the weakest on the panel was like Alejandro Moreno or whatever. Because, for example,
there was hold up, Craig Burley was the Chelsea guy.
Burley, Stevie Nicol.
Yep,
the Liverpool guy.
The old guy that you can't understand because of his accent.
Yep. Well, and that's the funny thing, right? Because Mateo wasn't even on the table when those guys were there. Like, Mateo was just in a room, in a different room, just commenting on it. And even then, they would refer to Gab Marcotti before they would refer to Mateo. So Mateo essentially was like, again, that's why he's Paramount Plus didn't want to pay a lot, and they didn't have to pay him a lot because he wasn't ESPN's main guy for this. Because if you look at it, if they wanted somebody with actual know-how and prominence, you would bring in Gab Marcotti to be your lead for Serie A, but they didn't, because they weren't going to pay him what ESPN was paying him. Paramount Plus was going to do a budget build for Serie A in the United States. So they went with these guys, what they have now. And like, for example, I think Mike Grella is the only one that has like the actual tactical savviness of it, where it's like, I listened to Mateo's commentary of the Torino game of the Derby della Mole, and the commentator, who is an experienced commentator next to him, when Mateo was whining about it, he's kind of like, dude, this is how it works tactically. This is how this is. And it's just like, it kind of tells me like there's a maturity gap with this group of individuals versus like actual seasoned veterans. But anyways, overall, I think I think this was a massive L by the Paramount crew. I think they handled this very, very poorly, because it's just kind of like an instant reaction to try to save Marco there, but then they ended up just making it worse. And it just, I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't surprise me that Paramount does stuff like that. It's just how Paramount has always been. Speaking of which, breaking news, Alfredo Padula said there's no possibility. This is, again, journalistic words, right? There is no possibility for Motta to renew his contract with Bologna. No possibility. But I leave you guys with that. Thanks for tuning into this longer Tinfoil Hat show. Obviously, if you've hopped in as well, later, rewind it. We covered a lot today. We did a lot of stuff today. Again, the meat is towards like the latter half, where we talked about Locatelli's numbers. We roasted journalists. We also, and as KB says, we also made fun of a little bit of Paramount Plus there. And again, like I said, happy for them. They get to do what they want to do, right? They get to cover Calcio and they get paid to cover it. I only get maybe a penny for every view. I wish. No. But
today we determined who our best passers in build-up.
And we've also distinguished
the new regista.
Bremer is the true number 6, the true regista of the roster.
So yeah, create a new defensive back line and move Bremer up the field, man.
Yeah, move Bremer for regista. That is going to be the campaign that we're running. Screw Jorginho, we got Bremer.
Hey, let's go for that agenda, man. Hashtag Bremer regista. Go for it.
Make sure you comment hashtag Bremer for regista on videos that we post. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you. Dave, Canadian Dave, I believe, is flying back tonight. He should be available for the weekend. He did say that he will be doing a watch along. I believe he's going to try to do a watch along on the weekend. So you'll see Canadian Dave, and he'll also be back, and it'll be a table of 3 for the call-in show. So on that note, guys, thanks for tuning in. For some of those that went through the whole 2 hours, your beasts, your monsters, but we'll catch you on Saturday.